Welcome back to the channel, guys. I have another build video for you today that I've been working on for the past couple of weeks or so online, and so this is not a hero edited build, first of all. And that's not to say it's a new build either, but it's kind of my take on it and how I play it. So the first thing I'm going to start with is the gear. And this is probably going to be the most expensive part of this build, is the weapon you want for this. Ideally, you want it to have at least 3 to conviction. If you could also get 3 to Fist of Heavens on a 4-socketed Divine Scepter or any kind of scepter, that would be most ideal. But at least the 3 to Conviction, just because it's such a skill point heavy build, and Conviction is not something you have to max, you want to invest as little skill points into it as possible. That being said, the base alone, just like a 4-socketed scepter with plus 3 to Conviction, this also had Holy Shock and Concentration on it, but those aren't really necessary. But this cost me a couple of jaw runes. If it ends up having Fist of Heavens on it, it can go up to very expensive, to around like 30 to 40 jaw runes. So keep that in mind when you're trying to build it. But try to at least get one that has 3 to Conviction. And the reason we play this is obviously for the level 16 Holy Fire aura, and the minus fire res does help a little bit. Next up, we have Dragon for the armor, and this also gives us a level 14 Holy Aura, and the way that it stacks, we essentially have a level 30 Fire Aura. So that's how you play this. And we get a lot of strength bonus from this as well as a little extra attributes, Hydra, a bunch of other like fire elemental stuff that does help out. And then for the Helm and Shield, we do have the Dreams, and this is where I got very unlucky with it personally. The resistances can roll between, I believe, 5 and 20, and like on the helmet it rolled 8, and on the shield it rolled 8. This was a 41 all resist shield to begin with. That was a little bit unfortunate. And the problem with this build is you're also running 2 Sunder Charms, so res fixing is very, very important. I also have a Caster Amulet because we use Fist of Heavens in this build, so it does help a little bit with that. And it has the all skills, the mana regen, and the all res, and it rolled a decent amount of all res, so I'm quite happy with it. For the rings, I use Stone of Jordans. Again, for the all skills, does help boost that conviction, so you have to invest less skill points into it. Same with the belt, Arachnid's Mesh, plus you have fast cast rate. For gloves, I chose to go with Mage Fist purely because of the faster cast rate. If you want to back down and you don't care as much about the faster cast rate, as like a lot of stuff dies without you having to use Fist of Heavens, you can opt for some like tri-res gloves to help you res fix a little bit better. And for the boots, I am using a pair of like tri-res boots because I definitely needed, like, the lightning and fire is very, very important. They're 2 of the main resistances in the game, and those are the 2 that are the lowest for us. For the charms, again, I have the 2 Sunders, and I do have a perfect lightning and a almost perfect fire. Obviously, the torch and the Annihilus. I do have a high rolled res torch and a pretty high Annihilus, so that helped a little bit. And then the rest of my charms are literally, with the exception of the Geese, is just me trying to res fix and stack life. Obviously, on the weapon swap, Call to Arms, Spirit, and you definitely need this because Call to Arms, not just for the battle orders, but the battle command. You get that extra skill point bump for conviction, helps quite a little bit. On a mercenary, which I've messed with quite a bit, the most useful thing I found to put on is obviously an insight. The meditation aura for the mana recharge does help you just charge around faster and spam Fist of Heavens without really worrying, so I'm not like very concerned about mana. With a fortitude, and though I didn't put it on, probably an Andes is the best choice for the helmet. You also do want a level 2 Act Mercenary for this, obviously, and I chose to go with the Prayer Aura just because I like that extra heal. You could also go with Might. That way your mercenary himself does a little bit more damage, which helps you kill bosses a little bit faster. And that's entirely up to you how you really want to focus on, if you want to like kill bosses or if you just want to like go through maps and melt stuff all around you. It's entirely up to you. But that's it for the gear. Now for the stats, obviously minimum strength requirement. You don't have anything to put into dex for this. As you can see, you do get a lot of stats from like the gear. So my base strength is 61, and it did get bumped a lot more at some point. But the most I needed was 118 for these boots, and then the rest you get to put into vitality, which makes this build very very tanky because you have a lot of health. And given the fact that you're trying to res fix so hard, it really does help. Now, the skills is where this gets very hard, and that's why this build I wouldn't recommend for anything short of like at least level 90, is because you need so many skill points. You're splitting yourself up across all 3 skill trees quite heavily. So resist fire is something that you're going to need to max. Resist lightning is what you're going to need to max, and salvation. Because of that, we get a big bonus to our holy fire and our holy shock, which we don't actually put points into. The only reason we're putting points into holy fire here, this just comes from the item, I have no points in it, is because we're trying to get conviction, and we're trying to get conviction to level 24, 25 being the max level that conviction should be at, just because that's where you, after that it no longer decreases additional resist, it just increases the radius. And once you get to 24 with your call to arms, it gets bumped up to 25, and you have the max resistance. And then here, unfortunately, you're going to have to put a point into every single skill to get the Fist of Heavens, just because this and this needs to be maxed. You're obviously going to want charge for this build, and you're going to want to put a point into Holy Shield. So all these just have 1 point into them, and the rest into Fist of Heavens. Now, again, you're not normally using Fist of Heavens that much, as most stuff does die around you pretty quickly, but it's an extra AoE room clear that you can just spam if you're facing like slightly tankier mobs. Just be careful that they don't. The Holy Bolt from it only hits undead and demons, so you're not going to be able to clear like beasts and the likes. And again, one thing you can do is, so I get 12 base just from my skills, so I only put 12 points into conviction. You can try and stack this up and play with a slightly neutered conviction aura by getting this up to 20 and not having to put a skill point in. That's again coming from +3 to conviction in your weapon, and then running all like offensive aura grand charms, with the exception of the sunders that you need to run the build. You can get this to about 20. But it does save you from putting any points into that, not to mention all the extra skill points, and then you can max your Fist of Heavens and Holy Bolt synergy a lot quicker, but you will be doing a bit less damage. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, the thing this build is best for farming for is large groups of enemies, and it can do very well in terror zones as well. So for example, like this is Cold Plains right now, so you're gonna come, you're gonna buff, and then all you do is just kind of run around, and as you can see, stuff just melts everywhere you go. I did see that small charm. You can pick up skill shrines. It's pretty sweet. And then you also have Fist of Heavens that you can just swap to whenever you really, really want. Now, obviously, these are a little bit lower health mobs, and that's honestly the stuff you kind of want to farm, right? Because you don't want stuff that takes like 3-4 ticks of your auras to die. You just want to be able to run around and have stuff die. Because this is a low magic find build, that's the best way for you to get more high runes. So that's one place you can do, and you're good at farming a lot of the higher levels. And one thing that you need to note is your charge does 12k. So with the exception of Bale, who's just a little bit tankier than the rest of the bosses, you can actually kill like Diablo and Mephisto pretty quickly. You can farm World Stone Keep quite comfortably here, despite the like, as you see, stuff just melts. It's really nice when you get those Act 3 minions, the fetishes and the shamans and all that, because there's just so many of them, and getting them in a high level area does increase your chance of getting higher level runes, as in Act 5, everything up to a Zod can drop. Since high rune farming isn't affected by magic find, you're just trying to kill and mow hordes of mobs down. As you can see, just hits like a pretty wide range. I wouldn't recommend a lot of maps that have like doors and all that other stuff in them, just because you're not going to you're gonna kill stuff in rooms that you're not in, and unless you want to go open every single um, door that's around you every time, which will slow down your farming quite a bit, you'll end up just maybe missing runes here and there. That's just not something you want to do. You have to be careful with these like cursed mobs, because if you do get spammed, you can take like damage quite quickly. As you can see, like packs of elites are just dying left, right, and center, so you're not really too concerned. And this is great for an online build where you can't forcibly play on player's aid. So if you're playing by yourself, you're just going to melt through mobs like very, very quickly. Anyways, that's it for this build, guys. I think it's a very sweet build for high rune farming. It's a bit different than the Javazon that just spams cows. And if you are planning on doing cows, you should just build the Javazon over this build, just because cows have such high health. It takes multiple ticks of your auras for you to mow down a screen of cows. Not to say that it's slow, it's just not as efficient a use of your time. But anyways, that's it for this video. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to click that subscribe button. As always, my social media information will be in the video description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.